Hey guys, welcome back to another RepPath Leadership Podcast. Today we have a very special guest. Before I introduce him, just to give you a little background to some of you that haven't joined the show, we're going to go over different topics with sales leaders from around the country. And today's topic is what's the pathway to yes? So I'm very excited. Again, as always, please make sure any questions, submit them into the chat. Our producer James is gonna field all those, and we're gonna answer them about halfway through the show. We are live today from LinkedIn, YouTube, Instagram, and Facebook, and we're also on every podcast platform available. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce our guest. This is Kelly Coan. He is a lifetime. Sorry, I got a bug in here. Sorry about that. He is a lifetime medical sales leader and owner, and he's currently the brand ambassador at Medical Sales College. So, Kelly, welcome to the show.
Hey, Joe. Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
Pleasure. So, just to give everyone a little bit of your background, if you could tell us a little about yourself and walk us through a little bit of your background, and also very important, especially for some of our candidates, on how you broke into the industry. If you could tell us your story.
Sure. Yeah, I appreciate the opportunity. And I'll tell you, it wasn't always that med device sales was on my horizon. In fact, from age 8, I knew I was going to be a pro baseball player. I knew that I was going to win the Little League World Series and in the College World Series, and then the World Series, and break all of Pete Rose's records. But it kind of went a different direction. I was 12. We played in the All-Star game, and back then it was single elimination. We lost the first game.
Oh, geez.
So that dream was kind of squashed. So resiliency was kind of building from the get-go. Same thing, college ball, just missed the regionals, didn't get to the World Series, didn't get drafted, didn't go play pro ball. So I had to get serious. But with all the sports I played all my life came a lot of injuries, a lot of x-rays, a lot of visits with doctors. And so I started kind of building a foundation for what I wanted to do, including considering being an orthopedic surgeon. But I soon realized that lifestyle wasn't quite what I was looking for. But what it did propel me to do was I went back to school after I graduated from college, into a radiological technology program where in my mind I was going to have my own MRI business and have surgeons as my customers, my clientele. But what happened was I got out and landed a job with the team physicians for the San Francisco 49ers. And that was just a job that I just instinctively felt that was going to be a great stepping stone for me. And so I just wanted to be around that. And it was fantastic. I did over 100 x-rays a day, met a lot of the sales reps who would come in to speak with the surgeons, gravitated towards them immediately. I'd ask them probing questions, not only about, the implants that I was seeing on the x-ray, but how they managed to convince the surgeon to use their product. And different questions like that, where a couple of them suggested that maybe I'd be a good sales guy. And I was like, no, I'm not a sales guy. And they're like, no, I think you might be. You should check into it. And so really that's what happened. I got a lead into a joint and trauma role with Smith & Nephew in the East Bay in California. And I applied, went through the interview process, was hired. And back in those days, you're hired and then you're thrown into the fire, like right from the get-go. So that's really the short, quick version of how I got into med device sales.
Is there anything, if you could think back to when you broke in, that you felt that you did during the process that helped you stand out?
As far as getting hired?
Yes.
I think, because you're right, it's so hard to get your foot in the door. And I think I wasn't afraid to just get a hold of the hiring manager and pester him really to insist that I could do the job. Back in those times, cell phones we were on pagers. So technology wasn't quite what it was. So, just the simple act of him coming to visit me and interview me, I got on in the yellow pages and looked up a number of hotels that would be convenient, and I just supplied him a list. And I don't know, I just did whatever I could to make it easy for him to like me. First of all,
but that's great, because a lot of young candidates, I think they have the misperception that, I'm exaggerating here, but like that everyone else is born with medical sales knowledge, born with the experience, born with family members that are in the industry and help them get in. And they don't have that, a lot of the confidence that it could just be that grit that you're talking about, that anyone can do. Anyone that shows a hiring manager they really want the role can get the job. And you proved that, because you didn't have like an in at the company. It's not like you knew many people there that hooked you up.
Well, that's right. And you make a good point, Joe, when, I've interviewed many candidates, and I think within the first 5 minutes, you can tell if the person wants the job and wants to work with you and your company, or are you finding yourself convincing them to like your company? And so I got pretty good at realizing that as soon as I make that realization, I'd already make my decision, whether or not the person was a right fit for us.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome. So, well, I appreciate that background. And again, today our topic is, what's the pathway to yes? So in your career, when you first started out, what was one of the first lessons that you learned in the industry to get a yes?
Yeah, that's a great question. I think early on, I found out quickly that, first of all, getting yes is not easy, as we all know. And but I think understanding that you're not entitled to it, so you need to work for it. And what was my method? What was my mindset? I think my mindset was, and this is just for me. It's not for everybody. This is just, and I don't mean to profess that, it's a cookie cutter method, but for me, it was, how can I serve my customer? If I put them first, lead with all my interactions with, put myself in their shoes, don't make it about myself. How can I provide a service one way or another? That's how I was going to get to yes.
Okay. And do you have any stories or anything you could share? It doesn't have to be your first yes. I mean, obviously that's very hard to remember anything, but if there's anything earlier in your career that was like a moment that you started off, when you're like, getting back to what you're saying, it's not easy, and you learn that quickly. Is there anything you could show that it's, anything that took like a long time period to get that first yes, or like that first deal that really got you motivated to want to be in this industry?
Yeah, well, so the companies I worked for, we sold everything. So capital equipment, as well as instruments, implants, disposables, as well as integrated OR solutions. So building out an operating room, a recovery area, SPD department. So getting a yes for that, Joe, seemed mythical, frankly, to be honest with you. It seemed like, how on earth can I actually get something like that? These are millions of dollars, $1 million solution. And the sales cycle can take up to 5 years in many cases. Half the time they're building, from scratch, building a brand new building. So it seemed far out of reach. So the first one I ever got, and believe me, when you land a deal like this, you're not doing it by yourself. You're bringing in product support, product management, experts, finance, everything. So I got pretty good at putting the right people in the same room and orchestrating that. But these are heavily competitive scenarios. You're going against the big boys, and so when you get that yes, it's like, it really is like winning a championship, and you got to keep cool to get into the car before you celebrate by yourself. Yeah. But so did I answer the question?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I get you're walking us through well, I guess to back up, because for some of our listeners, they could be saying, well, what's a yes?
Yeah.
So is that getting a PO signed, or is that something deeper?
Well, of course it's deeper because, because there's once you get the yes, that's when all the work begins. And it's hard work. But I will say, just getting a big comprehensive deal that incorporates all your other products, including all the integration of a operating room. And so for the listeners who don't know what that means, the integrated OR means you're supplying the operating room lights, the video system, the image capture devices, and how they all talk to each other. If I can put it in simplistic form, so you know, convincing a customer that you're their solution, it all begins with just having the dialogue and finding out, if there's a need there. And so, again, so many obstacles along the way, so many things that can go wrong or, south in the process. So when you come out and they issue you that purchase order, it's just phenomenal, because it means you did all the back end work to make it happen.
So, and this is definitely very interesting for a lot of our viewers, because, I've been in the capital space dealing with $1 million deals. I know how long it is. I know how grueling it is.
Yeah.
But, a lot of our listeners are familiar in the office space sale. You go to the office, you see the doctor's name on the door, who the decision maker is. You got to walk in and see, most likely. Sometimes it's an office manager that has a lot of say, another nurse, but odds are the physician is the one that's making the decision. When you're doing these complicated long sales cycles, when you're trying to get to that path to yes, where does it begin? Like, where do you start in your process? When you're walking into a hospital, then I know the first time I walked into a hospital to sell something, I'm like, holy shit, like, where do I go first? This building is huge.
Absolutely.
So
Well, I
if you
think,
could walk us through that.
yeah. Well, first of all, and I had some good mentors, along the way, who taught the concept of an account profile is critical. Account profile is, basically understanding, first of all, where the OR buyer office is, where the manager's office is. And I always say, don't be a stranger in the OR. Know everybody. Know where the CEO is. Know where the business director or developer, whoever it is, try and figure out who along the chain of decision making they are and where they are, and try and just exchange information, business cards, uh, just begin that foundation of a relationship. You're not going to get in front of everybody right away, but it's a process. And once you get, if you start at the OR buyer level, those people are easier to get to, and they're loaded with information, and they can tell you where to go and help you navigate. But you just need to know where to go first. So I would say begin with your account profiles and know who to get a hold of, who to get in touch with.
Okay. And have you ever worked in that process with other reps, with not only, it could be on your team, or could be working with, individuals from other companies that you're not necessarily in direct competition with, to get information?
Yeah. I'm sorry. So worked with other.
Like there could be reps, either reps on your team or different personnel,
Yeah.
or are there any other reps that you've worked with from other companies in that hospital space that aren't a direct competition, obviously?
Yeah. Well, absolutely. Whatever it takes, really, Joe. And, when you're around, I always, awareness is vital. So don't be so narrow-minded, that you're just there for yourself. Look around, have your ears open. Some of it's intuitive, I guess, but you can see, who the other reps are. You get a feel. And for me, I was, I didn't really have. I'm very competitive, but I didn't have a hatred for my competition. So that made it a lot easier, and absolutely, I would utilize whatever resource I could.
Okay. And we obviously know that in all of medical, trust is very important to get that from your customers. So when you're in that clinical setting, if you could explain to our viewers, how did you build trust in that setting, especially from multiple players, where I would assume you can't go in with the same messaging to a CEO, as you're with a scrub tech. So if you could walk us through how you build that trust?
Yeah. Well, it's built really, stone by stone, really. But you can't be afraid either. And I always come back to, if you lead with service, how can I present a solution that's beneficial for the other person versus it being all about myself. It kind of can set the tone, the conversation, and then just act on, do what you say you're going to do at all times. And I think the sincerity will, it eventually kind of bleeds out. And, a lot of these, as they call them, the C-suite folks, are more approachable than you think. A lot of people don't even make the attempt.
Right.
And so when I say don't be a stranger in your OR, you don't want to walk by, the OR manager or the CEO and not say hello. You should be able to do that and not necessarily always selling.
Sure. Right. Where it doesn't have to be a hardcore sales presentation every day you walk in there. You want to build a relationship where you're seen as a friend too throughout this process.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely. But I always have a strategy somewhere in mind. I don't want to just go into an account just for the sake of going into an account.
sure. And throughout this process, since you're working with people from all levels, who are some of the titles or individuals that were the key decision makers, that can help guide some of our candidates when they're getting into this space, so they can recognize those names, not those specific names, but the titles.
Yeah. So there's OR director, surgery center owner. A lot of the surgery centers are surgeon owned, so you become friends with those folks. Um, the finance people, OR manager, I said, and then of course the purchasing, the OR buyers. All of them I just assume have a vital role in the decision making process. So I don't want to ever undermine one over the other. I just want to assume everybody has an influence over the decisions.
That's great. Yeah. Because you never know. And who are some of those hidden influencers that you're talking about, like that, that they kind of surprised you? Because I'm sure as you're learning as you go, and then you're seeing some of these people and you're like, wow, they do have a lot of influence here.
Yeah, well, it's interesting, Joe, because everybody has something to say and has an opinion. I'm talking about the orderlies that prepare the room, mop the floor, push the patients from one room to another. So you don't want to overlook being respectful and kind to those people. Sterile processing, 100% can make or break you, and unfortunately, I've witnessed them being mistreated. I would never do that. I became friends with all those people. You can be an asset to them, during a like an evaluation period, because when you're trying to get instruments, a different set of implants or whatever, or capital, they tend to do a 2-week, demo period or evaluation of your product. And so you're interacting with everything. The nurse in the room, the circulator, the surgical tech, they all count. They all count. You can't take it for granted, because you know what? They have breakout meetings. They have brainstorming meetings. They have little potlucks, and they all talk.
Right.
They all talk. And so don't be rude.
Yeah, no, but that's great, because it's not as easy as people think, because when you do have so many different people involved in those hospital purchases, it is hard, because you're always focused. Like when I started and I was selling, this expensive equipment. And I knew that eventually it would get on the CEO's desk.
Yeah.
When I first started, I'm looking up all these CEOs and trying to get meetings with them. And I did get some at the beginning. And to be honest with you, they looked at me like, I don't know what the hell you're doing here, because there was no foundation built.
Yeah.
I was overlooking so many of these individuals, and I learned the hard way. So I'm sorry, you were going to say.
Well, I tell you, some of the things I did, I think could be useful in getting to know these people, like you said, so you're not the stranger in the OR. I would do things like, if I was there for a few cases in the operating room, I'd go to their office, and if they were not there, I'd drop them a note saying, "Thank you, I was in your OR today, and by the way, nurse so and so did a fabulous job in this situation." Maybe a compliment there with my business card. If you need anything, call me. Thank you very much. That kind of thing. If I was, giving a proposal, I would, a lot of people just give it to the buyer, but I made sure I give a copy to the buyer, the director, the OR manager, and the CEO would get one via FedEx, because everybody likes to open up a FedEx package with a note, because you don't want to assume that they understand what you're proposing. You want to get a meeting with them to explain it. So as much as I could do that, I would.
I absolutely love that. That just lit a light bulb in my head with the FedEx package.
Yeah.
Number one, no, that's brilliant, because it's something that I never did. I never proactively FedEx something directly to an individual. Most likely they are opening that personally.
Absolutely.
Or their assistant is. That's brilliant. That's something I never did. And, I'm definitely going to be teaching that and steal that idea from you.
Awesome. Well, I'm pretty sure I got that from somebody early on. It's very effective. And one way or another, they're getting the information. I always want to be as much in control of a process as I possibly can, because you're not fully 100% in control. So you do that, and it's a chance to even insert a bio of who you are and request a meeting.
Well,
it was pretty effective.
That's very effective, because a lot of old school candidates that I work with, and I did this too. Like, remember back in the day when you had a dinner, you were literally going around with flyers, dropping them off to offices at the front desk. When a doctor called you back, you're like, wow, he actually got my flyer. And now people, because we've gotten so far away from that, there's reps that write handwritten notes, and there's mixed feelings I have for that. I think it's somewhat effective. I think it's cutesy, like, oh, you're actually putting the time in and all that. I get it.
Yeah.
But I've never actually had anyone tell me to send a FedEx, because it can't just get opened by anyone. And I think that's the brilliance of it. It's just
Right.
not.
Well, I'll tell you the other thing, Joe, since we're talking about creative ways to get in front of these decision makers, because a lot of times their doors are shut, and they're not in the office, or they're on the phone, whatever, or they just don't want to see a sales guy, because there's that natural adversarial piece to the whole puzzle. But for me, I was like, what can I do? I was obsessed about how can I be different from my competitors. And another thing was, somebody taught me early on, when you sell capital, that you should you have the key to the OR. So you should go in and periodically do what we call a maintenance check on the product. And basically, when you have video, which I sold, we'd have up to 10 towers in an OR. And so I would make it a point to, every month I would make sure I looked at each piece of equipment. But I took it a little step further, and to quantify my effort, I created an invoice, and I value my time, pretty expensive, and I'd show the cost of it, and then at the bottom, it said no charge, and I made copies for everybody. Who knows what they did with them? The buyer got a copy, the OR manager, the director of the OR, and the CEO. if I had to slide it under the door, I slid it under the door. But they all got them on a monthly basis.
That's I honestly, because I sold capital, and that's something else I never thought of. Like we used to go in, and one of the creative ways that we would go in with, speaking of those checkups, would be to, do a, bi-monthly check of the equipment that we have in there.
Yeah.
And we'd have a letter from the company, written. Now, did we really have to go in there? No, but whenever they see a letter saying that this representative is here, they would just say, sure, go ahead, go in there. And then before you know it, you're having conversations, because we know how tough it is to get access right then and there. But I never thought of the no charge. That's another, key takeaway from this talk. I love that.
Yeah. And it's nothing, nothing special. I think it was just one of those things I felt that my competition probably wasn't doing. And I was just obsessed by figuring those things out.
Kelly, I talk with hundreds of people a week and sales leaders from all around the country. I've never heard someone do that. So I think that's great.
We could go on and on about that.
I know, but I wish I knew that. I wish I knew that when I was selling capital at the time. Yeah. I definitely would have stole that too. Yeah. But getting back to the yes. So,
sure.
When you're going through the process, especially a long process, have you ever been down that pathway where everything is going smooth and someone or something happens to derail that yes? If you could talk about that, and what did you do to overcome that?
Of course. I would say that my very first attempt at selling a video solution, I had everything dialed in, and they were leaving it up to this high-profile surgeon to make the overall decision. He was new to the facility, and they wanted him to be happy, and I won it. Oh, I won his yes, and everybody else loved it too. And so now it was just a matter of getting the proposals together and getting the PO. Well, he calls me literally on a Friday and to tell me that, hey man, something came up. I have taken a position at another, down the road. It's just an opportunity that's too good to pass up. And me being naive and like, thinking that I'm the first person he came to with this information. I'm like, well, you haven't told the account yet, right? And of course I'm leaving. I start on Monday. So, and, with that kind of status, there's, when you talk about the political side of stuff within the facility and some resentment towards him, especially since he's leaving now, the decision got pulled and went to the competition. And there was really nothing I could do about it. I went, and that decision was deferred to another surgeon who was actually probably a little bit resentful because of his status, when the guy came in. But I think the way I handled it was to not get mad and flustered. I mean, I got frustrated, and this was before I ever sold a capital solution. So that added to that mythical, like, will I ever be able to sell something like this? It just seems so, like, I felt like I did everything right, and it still didn't happen. Right. But so when I went to the guy to ask what I could have done differently, he said, nothing. Don't worry, you'll have another opportunity in 3 years. And 3 years seems so far away, so long. And he says, so just make sure you come back to see me in 3 years. And my answer was, well, I'm not going away for 3 years. I'll still be here. I want to earn that yes. And that's how I left it. And I'm telling you, Joe, 3 years later, it came back to me and I got it. So
that's amazing.
You just never know.
That's amazing. Because let's be real, most people would give up at that point. And especially when you work so hard at something, it's a punch to the stomach times like 1,000 when something like that happens. And there's nothing you can do, but the fact that you didn't get flustered, that you had the persistence, not only to say, I'll see you in 3 years, I'm still going to be at this company. No, you kept going back, earning that. And then 3 years came. So that's a well-deserved win. So great. That's amazing.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I'll tell you too, Joe, where leadership comes in and is important. Um, the leader of our organization, and I still have the email today, and this was 20 something years ago, 30 years ago. The email was basically, don't get flustered, don't be frustrated. Your persistence and your good nature. It was a real positive message. It will come back to you. Stay with, don't give up. Basically, don't give up. And so that was a great leadership message at the right time. And so that helped as well.
Wow, that's amazing. And you actually answered my next question, which was, tell me about a time you turned a no into a yes. So at this point, because we're about halfway through the podcast, we're just going to take a pause
Okay.
and see, James, if we have any questions from the crowd, we'd love to address some of those now.
Yeah, I have a couple actually. First question, what's the difference between reps who build real influence in the OR or clinic and reps who are just seen as vendors?
What is the difference between reps who are seen as vendors? Can you
and others that have real influence in the
Yeah.
OR?
Well, oh gosh, yeah. Sincerity. It's really easy to tell if the person is just trying to get a sale and is going to bug out, or if somebody's there to be a part of that surgical team. It's really pretty obvious. Put that customer first.
Yeah, I mean, I agree 100% with that. Just to add my 2 cents, I mean, a lot of vendors, quote unquote vendors, they come in with the company's agenda, with their agenda, and they don't listen. They're blinded. They feel like, I have to get this across. I have to get my messaging across. And if you're not listening, you don't even know if someone cares about this, if it's important to them. And if you don't know what's important to them, like Kelly says, it's going to be insincere. It's not going to be real. You're just going to be seen as an annoying vendor and not someone that's trying to provide value.
It's so true. And you don't want to bring your stuff to the OR. Don't bring your personal stuff or whatever complaints or whatever you're going through. It's not the time for it.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right. How do you create internal champions inside clinics or hospitals who can help close you deals on your behalf?
Yeah, well, that's great, because that's a really good question. It's nice to have an inside guy or gal who's on your team. And so what does that mean? That means take the time, and it takes some time to figure out who that person is, but teach them your system, teach them beyond, because somebody's always going to emerge as one who's really interested to be part of a solution for their organization they're working for. And so find that person, educate them, give them your cell phone, and be available at all times. Now, you can't give thank you gifts anymore or anything like that, which I would always love to be able to do that, but so you just have to be responsive and make sure, if you have that inside person, you're letting their manager know what a great job they're doing. That's just a little extra step in just compliment the person that's being helpful to you.
That's great.
It goes a long way.
Yeah.
How do you segment accounts between high potential and low value without wasting time or burning bridges?
That's kind of a two-part question. Well, I think, and maybe I was just dumb and, early on, but I always made everything a high value priority account to me. I didn't really treat anybody less per se. But what you do need to do is, little goal setting, identify what your, each potential deal is valued at, and as well as the percentage of actually, figuring out, is this a real deal? And then, it kind of becomes easy to prioritize based on, again, that and the customer's needs and timelines. Did I answer it?
Well, I definitely, I think that's a great point that you made, Kelly, is that treat everyone like it's a high priority. Because for some of the reps out there, just to pivot a little bit onto the pharma side, companies have deciling. So a decile 10 would be, they'll get data that they pay for from all the pharmacies in a geography. And so based on their prescribing habits, the highest prescribers are decile 10, the lowest prescribers are decile 1. And there's times where it's hard you go in there thinking, this guy's a 10, he's a higher priority than this individual that's a 1. And you learn quickly that you kind of got to get that out of your head, because some of my biggest advocates and my biggest prescribers were 2s and 3s that a lot of people ignore because they're all getting the same data. Yeah. So a lot of other reps are going, oh, I'm going after Dr. Jones, the decile 10 guy. Everyone's going after Dr. Jones. Not to say you don't want to go after for him too, but you can't ignore everyone else or treat them that there's less priority, because some of those individuals, especially because a lot of times they're not getting the same attention, exactly. You're going to get more time with them, and they could turn into, because there were many individuals that were just starting out, and then within 6 months to a year, their volume was through the roof. And they became, it's like almost like you started together and developed a relationship together from the beginning that grows into something that could be amazing.
Oh, man. So you just reminded me, Joe, of, and it does pertain to this point as far as priorities. The very first multi-million-dollar deal that I got, or my company received, it was an 8-room OR, three procedures, recovery room, pre-op, as well as the SPD department, all the capital they needed, all that. How did I get my first meeting with the director at the time? She was the OR manager, a 2-room, tiny little surgery center. And I was just making my rounds, making my introductions. And I sat down at her desk, cluttered, Post-it notes everywhere, tiny little surgery center. But behind me was a poster of a company's integrated OR solution. It wasn't my company's, it was brand S at the time. And I look back and I say, I just said, what's this all about? And she tells me, we're going to build a new surgery center in about 5 years. And I said, well, can I give you my poster? And it started with that. Her and I and she's retired now. She's my number one customer, really good friends, been through a lot. We kind of grew up in the industry together, but it was because I just treated her as a high priority right from the get-go.
That's great. Well, how do you, and James, just to just pivot for a second, we'll get back to those questions.
Yeah, go for it.
How do you approach your company? Because these questions come in my head as you're speaking. So when the company's trying to pressure you, like, to go in that direction, and even though you're like, okay, yes, I agree that's a valuable customer, but this individual or this center, that's not on the radar, I believe that this is where I should spend a lot of time too. Have you had those situations where your company is kind of disagreeing with you, and how do you approach that to, like, go in your gut feeling or whatever it is to go against the grain of what the company wants?
Yeah. I got to say, I was fortunate enough to work for companies that did give a fair amount of autonomy to run your schedule, as long as you're producing your numbers. And I, which, fortunately I did. I would just make time for them all, Joe. Somehow, I asked my wife. I was talking to my family about, going over some topics we might discuss. And my son Kellen used to get up early with me, because I would get up pretty darn early to get my day going and establish a routine that allowed me to get in front of everybody somehow. And so I called my wife and say, hey, sorry, I need to go see Melody, and it's 6 o'clock, but she's in the office. I need to have my touch. And, I just made sure I didn't miss anybody.
Right. That's
Maybe
great.
I was a little obsessed. I don't know what it is. Crazy, I guess.
That's great. That's great. But sorry, James, I didn't mean to
No,
break
you're
it up
good.
there.
Jump in whenever.
Yeah. Hey, you're the
We
host.
can always get back to questions. You're the host. Yeah. I'm just here to help to facilitate. So, we have, how much closing in the field is about selling to doctors versus winning over the support staff?
So again, an excellent question, because I just feel it's both. A surgeon, obviously you need to win them over, especially if you're selling an implant, a technique or whatever. But most of the time, then there's a decision process that the surgeons kind of, stay away from. And that's, the committee members that might meet on every third Thursday of the month. And if you don't time it right, it gets pushed out. So understanding that process and just knowing that if you're respectful, because a lot of people in, management want to be a part of this decision-making process, even if they might not be, just assume that they are and just inform them. Hey, Dr. Jones asked me to present this product to him. I did. He liked it. Here's the clinical data that backs it up. That kind of thing. So include everybody in the process. Eventually, if you're in your accounts enough, you know what the process is. So that's part of just the investigation of how to get to yes within your specific account.
Okay. And is there a timeline, or is it vary? I mean, I know, because I get asked that all the time, like, how long does that take? What is the timeline to be like an expert in that account?
It takes time. You have to be willing to, and when you mention the grind, that's part of the grind. And there's no magic number. Every account is different. People inherently put up their guards against salespeople. I mean, if you go to a department store, you feel those eyes on you, and you're like, you don't want to be asked to spend your money. So I just kind of like put myself in that position and understand that it's going to take time. So you don't you're always selling, but you're not always selling.
Well, that's another great point, because I get that all the time too. The breakdown, or excuse me, the perception that a lot of reps have that are coming into this industry, especially reps that are in the industry going into capital sales and that sales cycle. I get individuals that say, Joe, I don't want to cover cases all day. I want to be selling. And it's like, shit. Everyone wants to sell all day long. So what is the realistic, I know you don't have an exact number of a typical day of actual selling time when you're in front of customers presenting a product, versus the rest of the day?
Sure. I feel like a great answer to that, because in my day, I was probably in 30 surgeries a week minimum. Throw in there over 100 text messages, voicemails, emails, all that. Where do you figure that out? And so my favorite book of all time, The 4 Disciplines of Execution. How do you manage because you have all these things that are being put upon you, which is referred to as the whirlwind, customers asking for favors, covering surgery, doing this. When do I sell? How do I prioritize? Well, this book is a simplified method of goal setting and then establishing the action items that's going to influence that sales process. Because it really, what are the 2 to 3 things you can do during the week to help to take care of yourself, your priorities? And so to me, that was just a godsend. The process is, and it's not the one and only process, but I think the short answer is you need a process that you can follow to allow you to take care of your priorities, because you're judged on a number at the end of the day.
Right. Right. Well, that's great. And thank you for sharing that book, because I'm definitely going to, I haven't read that yet.
Oh,
So
I love it. My teams, if any of my teammates are on this watching, they'll know, he's talking about the 40X again.
that's great. But James, any other questions?
Yeah. Do you have any strategies to build urgency in a doctor's mind quickly without being too pushy?
Was that urgency, did you say?
Yeah, urgency in a doctor's mind without being too pushy.
Well, I mean, I don't, necessarily like the concept of the fear of loss, but, doctors are competitive too. And so, if you can phrase, something in a way that, that lets them know that maybe their competitors using this product, or the company's seeking that competitor to be their spokesperson or whatever it is, you got to be careful. Doctors, are evidence based, for the most part. And so you just got to, I like to make them feel special. Like, hey, you're the first person I'm coming to with this. I really would, before I show it to anybody else, can you give me your feedback? Because, that really means a lot to me. So, stuff that appeals to them, but it's not, gross,
Right.
if you know what I mean.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay, we got how do you handle objections in the moment when you can go back and regroup later?
Well, if you can go back and regroup later, that's sometimes best. Definitely take a deep breath, and you never want to fight somebody on it, but come to the meeting anticipating objections. Try and think of any objection you could get, and then just be ready to overcome it in a more informational way of expressing yourself. And you don't have to do it alone. Call product management, call product support, call other colleagues, and ask them. What kind of objections have you seen? Don't be narrow focused and thinking that you have to do it all by yourself.
100%. I mean, just to piggyback off that too, not only just objections, but they're great. Objections you should be excited about, especially when you don't have an answer. Earlier in my career, I was so upset when I didn't know something that a doctor asked me, and you feel like, oh, geez, I screwed up. I blew this. I failed the test today.
Yeah.
And it's the complete opposite. It actually is when you don't know something, but you're always going to get that answer, from someone else on your team, from a manager, like you said, from different support staff. But look at that as an opportunity to be able to get another meeting. There's something that you have to follow up on. There's a reason with that physician to get back in front of them. So don't be discouraged by not knowing something, and embrace objections. Objections are way better than getting ghosted.
Absolutely.
Way better.
Absolutely. And when don't know something with confidence. You know what? I don't know. I'll find out. I haven't been asked that. I'll get that answer to you in an hour or whatever. And then just make sure you execute the follow-up.
Yeah. Yeah. Don't guess, and definitely don't lie and try to, come up with an answer, because I've seen that before. They could see through that. Sorry about that. They could see through that, and that you're going to lose trust, and that you'll never get that back.
Absolutely. It's so hard to get trust back once you've lost it. I've seen it happen. I'm like, oh, it's like a train accident just waiting to happen.
I was with a rep once that, not to get into too many details, but she did not know the anatomy at all. And she was in a case, and she was telling the doctor to do something that was exterior. It was an exterior suture that she was telling them to tie down to something interior of the body. And the doctor was looking at her, and she kept confidently saying, just do this. And I was shaking my head because I couldn't cut her off in front of the doctor.
Yeah.
And I was trying to hit her.
At the bit.
Yeah. And I was like, oh man, it was very awkward. But again, she was faking it. And you're like, just, you don't do that. Don't pretend, because it shows your lack of knowledge, and it's okay to not know something and just say it, but faking it is the worst thing you could do.
Absolutely. And, there's a patient on the table, and that's always when you come back to like who you're serving, and it always comes back to the patient. Man, don't do it.
Yeah, no. Like we always were taught, treat it like it's a family member on the table.
Always.
Yeah.
And then you just do all the right things that you don't even think about it.
Absolutely.
So true. It's a great point.
All right, we have a question from LinkedIn. Cynthia Oliveris, she wants to know, hello, I'm coming from a clinical background. I have 2 years in nursing support and 4 in pharmacy. I'm passionate about transitioning into healthcare and medical to sales. I know this is a different topic from getting a yes, but what can someone do in order to stand out early or to get your foot in the door?
You want me to answer that, Joe?
Yeah, please.
Yeah. In my opinion, first of all, you have a lot of great experiences that are for your resume that companies are going to like. And I think working with somebody like Joe will be very helpful in that regard as well. But be confident and apply, get in front of these companies, because it sounds like you have a lot to offer right from the get-go.
Yeah, I agree 100%. I mean, I'm looking at your question and seeing, I believe it was 2 years in nursing and 4 in pharmacy. I mean, there's individuals with a lot less that can show. You're always trying to show your transferable skills when you're coming from other industries or other backgrounds. Like, for instance, I work with a lot of teachers where they present all day long, and presentation skills are key. That's a transferable skill for medical. But you are in medical, you're in nursing, you actually are in pharmacy. I mean, these are a lot of key, not even transferable skills. They're outright medical skills that, hundreds of companies out there are going to want to get in front of you. I think, and we could talk one-on-one, but it's networking the right way and going after those companies. Number one, where you're a fit. So read the job description, read the requirements. A lot of people don't do that. But when you're a fit, those are the roles that you really want to go after, and network with individuals at the company at the same time. And again, you can reach out to me, direct message me, and we could discuss offline. But you have a great background. There should be no reason why you can't find a job quickly.
Yeah, great.
Yeah.
Right. How about this one? We got, when a doctor says we're good with what we have, what's your best move to break through that wall?
Yeah. Gosh, I've heard that so many times. Well, understanding, what is good with what we got mean? Is there an issue? Is there something that's not being solved or resolved? So you're always looking for something that is a better solution. So identifying whether it's probing questions with the surgeon, have you found, an issue when you're trying to suture at the end, or when you're trying to insert the implant? Are you getting good full purchase? Whatever it is, ask probing questions. Again, that's not adversarial, but more solution-based for the individual. You'll get there. And you can ask, you don't only have to ask the surgeon, you can ask the surgical tech they work with, or, anybody else they work for, the circulating nurse, whoever's in the OR with them. They're loaded with information. So try and arm yourself as much as possible.
Yeah. I mean, I agree 100%. They're not waking up that in the morning, physicians going, I hope Kelly comes in today to provide another solution, because I'm not going to be able to get through my day. I need Joe to come in here today to save my day.
Yeah.
We're not on the top of their list, guys. So, like Kelly was saying, he essentially was probing. I mean, continue to probe. The more information you have, you're going to uncover a need. It's a guarantee. The challenge is The good reps do that. The average reps take that and go, oh, well, I don't want to bother them. They're good. They don't care about my product. Yeah, sorry. I don't want to waste your time. I apologize for being annoying. You got to have that confidence that what you're selling and what you provide, there's real value there. And you have to believe in that. If you don't believe in that, then you shouldn't be selling your product.
Absolutely. And the other thing too, the benefit of those relationships that you spend a lot of time earning in the OR with those circulators and the surgical techs is when something goes south with the competitive product, they're going to come let you know that proactively.
Yes.
And that's from the hard work of building a relationship.
Yeah. And that is an excellent point, Kelly, because I've gotten to know Joe, we're good. I work with Bob. Bob's great. Everyone loves Bob. And I would hear about Bob throughout my whole territory.
Yeah.
And there is a time everyone, it might not be Bob's fault, someone on the support team, someone internally with the company, there's a back order, something that happens that could be out of Bob's control. But if you're always in there and you're being persistent, you're going to get your chance because nobody's perfect. No company's perfect. Like Kelly said, just keep getting after it and it's going to come around.
And you know what, Joe? It's okay to also say, hey, can I be your number two? Can I be your backup? If if there is a back order issue, if there's something that goes south, you can count on me to come bail you out, be your second choice.
Absolutely. And then they do, I know I'm going to sound like an old man saying this, but they do the Coke Pepsi challenge where now they have something that they didn't know what good really was until you came in. They thought that was good. And now you provide superior product, service, everything. And they're like, wow, I didn't realize this. I'm going to stick with Kelly.
You just never know.
Yeah.
All right. We got last question. How do you adjust your pitch when you realize the decision maker isn't the one you're speaking to?
Yeah. Wow. That's such a great question. How do you adjust your pitch? Well, if they tell you that they're not the decision maker, I think the next obvious question is who is, and how do I get a hold of that person? Finding out, and that's all great that you're finding out intelligence. So if that person is not the decision maker, by all means, find out who is, and then that's your next plan of attack. It's not that complicated unless you make it overly complicated, I think.
I agree. And I think that's that question, which is a great question, but you don't have to bat 1,000 walking into hospitals, and you're going to go in the wrong direction over and over until people are going to lead you in the right direction. I mean, it's like driving without navigation or directions to get somewhere. You're going to keep making wrong turns. Eventually, you're going to get to the right spot. And once you do, then the process is really going to move forward. But that's why a lot of these take time. So don't get in your head that you have to get it right the first time. You're supposed to get it wrong.
And you will.
Yes. The persistence and effort is going to get you there. So, but that is a great question.
Yeah.
Awesome. So, James, thank you again for fielding all those. I appreciate it. Absolutely. And Kelly, any final thoughts, comments, for the crowd, especially for the individuals that want to make this a career or individuals that are already in the industry and looking to go down that capital pathway? Anything you want to share as a final thought? I appreciate it.
Yeah. And I'll get in trouble if I don't say hi to my daughter, Grace, too. She said, make sure you mention us. So I got Kellen and Grace mentioned. So,
yeah, that's adorable.
I would say, it's amazing because I've done a lot of new hire trainings, working with teams. And I like to ask the question, have you made the decision to be successful? Everybody wants to be successful, but until you actually look in the mirror and declare, I'm going to be extraordinarily successful, you're not really going to put the things in place to get you there. So I think it begins with declaring that you're going to be successful at whatever it is you're going to do. And then just just be committed to the grind and be okay. That journey's not easy, and you're going to hear no way more than you hear yes. But when you hear yes, it's fantastic and makes it all worthwhile. So I say begin with, I'm going to be successful. Look in the mirror and declare it.
That's awesome. Couldn't have said it better, Kelly. Thank you so much. This has been great.
Yeah, this has been fun.
This is awesome. We definitely want to have you back. I'm going to say it to your face with everyone listening. I'm stealing a bunch of your ideas and I'm going to pass them off as my own, and I'm not going to give you credit for it.
Hey man, you got to give this stuff away. If you want, you got to serve people. You got to give it away. So have fun with it.
Thank you. Thank you again. Thank you for everyone listening. And as always, guys, excuse me, a couple of housekeeping items for all of you, anyone on the show that is looking for one-on-one training or also to be part of the RepPath Academy. Feel free to reach out to me. You can either email me at joe@reppath.com or just DM me on LinkedIn. And for all our lobby members that are listening today, to get additional discounts, please give the promo code Licata when you reach out to me to schedule any training, and you'll be able to get additional discounts. Again, that's LICATA for any of the lobby members. But I want to thank Kelly again for being on the show, and thank you all for joining. And as always, we'll be doing these every Monday and Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern. So thanks again, guys, and hope to see you soon.
Take care.